Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Beyond the Box Score, our weekly program where we break down all the latest action from high school, college, and the pros here on Pulaski Citizen Live. I'm your host, Mark Mize, joined once again by my co-host, Chandler Harmon. Chandler, we're into the second week of the district season. You know, both teams have had some interesting early bouts. You got a chance to see Giles over at Lawrence County for a great one there. Richland is 2-0 in district play on both sides. And so this is probably the part of the season that everyone has been anticipating all year long.
Absolutely, Mark. And, you can feel that in the atmosphere at Lawrence County. One of those big rivalry games for Giles County. One of those matchups that, in my opinion, you couldn't get much better on an opening district play game for the Bobcats. And I'm excited just to continue on with this part of the season because this is the part we've all been waiting for. As we even started the season, we were talking about getting to district play, and now it's here.
Yeah, and of course, you have an interesting segment with Don Thomas at the end, so we won't do a college football segment on this particular program, but Monday night, national championship, Indiana versus Miami. What are you thinking about it, Chandler?
Yeah, Mark, I think that it's Indiana's to lose. We've seen them beat their opponents pretty handily here in the playoffs, and they've looked really good. I think they're the most complete team. You can't count Carson Beck out. Georgia, when he was there, was always a team that did the improbable. So I'm leaning Indiana, but if Miami somehow finds a way to win it, I wouldn't be surprised somehow if they pull it out.
It's interesting. A lot of people are comparing this Indiana team to some of the best teams from the modern era when it comes to just, strength of schedule over the course of, the playoffs and the regular season there in the Big Ten, as well as just, the margin of victory. Statistically, they have looked really good. A lot of people I've heard comparing them to 2019, with LSU when they went undefeated, won the national championship with Joe Burrow. Fernando Mendoza, kind of a similar story there in terms of starting his career out somewhere else and then just catching fire with a new program. And so, it's been, I think, in a college football landscape that at times has become predictable. I think it's been one of my favorite stories because it's thrown such a wrench into the conventional wisdom about who can and can't be good in college football.
I agree, Mark. And, one of the interesting things I saw today, I don't know if you saw about Oregon's quarterback coming back this next season after being beat like a drum by Indiana, a team that we thought would probably be one of the best teams in the country, Oregon, this year.
And they were.
Yeah, and until they got to Indiana, which just shows, again, the teams we think are going to be good, there's teams that can surprise you and be even better than them because Indiana just came out of nowhere and dominated this season, and Oregon.
I will say, though, I've picked against Miami for 3 straight weeks, and so at this point, I've been wrong 3 times in a row. So, hey, you never know, and it's such a good story there, too. Not in the sense that they never win because, obviously, historically, they're one of the more storied programs in college football, but the fact that a team that was on the edge 1 week before the final rankings was out of the field has shocked everyone and got to the championship. And really, I think this speaks to the fact that there's a legitimate argument to expand the field to 16 teams, or at least a little bit bigger one way or another, because you're having teams that you wouldn't usually think of as being powers. You're having teams that maybe halfway through the season you're wondering if they make the playoffs, suddenly making a run like this. And so that really shows that there is parity in college football in a way that I don't think there had been before.
Yeah, Mark, I think that when they talk about expanding the playoffs, whether that's this year, next year, the year after, but Mark, I think it speaks to, as you were talking about the parity of this region of football this year with Vanderbilt, they shocked people, or could have shocked people this year, didn't get a chance to. I think that this helps make a case strongly for a 16-team playoff team, but after that, I don't think you should expand any further. I mean, you want to keep it exclusive, and I mean, with a 16-team playoff, you're getting most of the top 25 in there, so I think that's kind of the good cutoff for them if they do expand.
And of course, it's not like basketball in the sense that it's really hard for them to play multiple games per week or play too many games in a season just because of the physical toll that football takes. And so, I'm kind of with you that I think 16 may be the sweet spot there. But even though there's a lot that I think the fans that I've talked to don't like about this era of college football with some of the NIL and some of the frequent transfers in terms of, it's tough to follow a team with you don't know who's going to be on it from year to year when it feels like everything's a 1-year contract. But at the same time, I think that this era of college football is going to be known for the fact that you did have some teams rise up and really, defy expectations and kind of break the monopoly that teams like Alabama and Ohio State and Michigan and, Georgia, those teams really had on the sport for a little while there. So, I think that's something that we're going to look back on fondly. But that's enough football talk. Of course, this time of year, this is a basketball program. So we're going to be back in just a moment talking some Giles County basketball here on Beyond the Box Score.
When it comes to real estate, Haney Realty and Property Management is the team you can trust. Our extensive knowledge of the market and industry allows us to help our clients with any real estate need. We know how to get results. So whether you're looking to buy, sell, or rent, let us put our expertise to work for you. Call us today at 931-347-9150 or visit HaneyRealtyPam.com to learn more. Haney Realty and Property Management, your best friend in real estate.
And we're back here on Beyond the Box Score talking some Giles County basketball here as the Lady Bobcats and Bobcats had a chance to play in the Cowbell game basketball edition on Tuesday night there as the girls fell 54-50. However, the boys won behind a 45-point effort from Cason Howard. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But let's talk some girls action first. And so I think that this was one of those games, I talked about last week that I thought Giles could be one of the top 3 teams in the district. Lawrence was one of those teams that I thought was in that exact same conversation. And it sounds to me that, in a 4-point loss, Giles kind of showed the fact that, hey, they're here to play and, we're neck and neck with another team that we think is going to be at the top of the district.
Yeah, Mark, and, it was one of those games that you did all the right things for the first 3 quarters, and the fourth quarter kind of got away from you. Lady Bobcats led by as much as 15 points at one point in the matchup, and that was in the third quarter of play. Right. There's some areas that they're still trying to grow and getting the ball in transition, making the right passes, taking the right shots. Some stuff that we talked about, last week when we were previewing, some things that they need to work on as we get into district play. Those issues are still there for the Bobcats, the Lady Bobcats, and they're trying to figure those out still. However, playing a good Lawrence County team, like you said, a team that could be top 3 in district this year and only losing by 4 points, but having a hold on the game up until that last quarter of play, I think it speaks to that you're almost there. You've got to figure out these last few things that are holding you back as a team. This is a Lady Bobcats team that's still young, still growing together, and still figuring out, who they are as far as a team identity.
Well, road district games are always tough. I think just everyone knows that. And the Ralph, as they affectionately call it over there, is one of my favorite arenas here in this district. And so, usually Lawrence County's fans, especially the student section, are always some of the most passionate. So it's a tough place to play. So, when you talk about the road environment and the fact that, at the end of the day, I think Giles is still, as much as these girls have played together, they're still a relatively young team when you think about the fact that they're primarily composed of sophomores and juniors. I understand how we could be at this place in the season, and I really don't think that this is necessarily a negative because, of course, you're going to have them coming to your place later in the year and a chance to, avoid potentially losing that tiebreaker by splitting the season series. And so I really think that this is, not really a loss that's going to change our outlook on what they can do this season, but we do kind of have to consider the fact that they've had a few games this year in which, for the first 3 quarters, I think they really looked like the better team, just to have a slight letdown in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Mark, and it's one of those things that when I was talking to Coach Steger, both in the interview that y'all will hear on the show today and talking to him after the loss last night, there's some areas that they're really working to figure out as they get into some very tough matchups ahead. Tullahoma is going to be a very tough matchup on the road for them. Marshall County is going to be a tough matchup coming up Friday. There's a lot of tough matchups early on in this district play for them that are going to test them. Lawrence County might be one of the better teams that have played all year, rather. Yeah. And so, being on that road, opening with a road game is always going to be hard. Hopefully, from getting this matchup out of the way, learning from it, they can improve the rest of district play because I think that they really are just, a few issues away from being a very dominant and very great team here in Giles County.
Yeah, and of course, it's not only about this year, but the years to come, because once again, you look at not only what they have this year, but the returning talent as well. And so I think it's a really good time for the program, and I think they've just consistently gotten better for 2 straight years now, really kind of showing the fact that this program is definitely headed in the right direction. But hearing a little bit more about that, we'll go ahead and hear from Coach, who's going to talk a little Giles County girls basketball after he had a chance to talk with Chandler.
When it comes to insurance, Winterburg and Associates Insurance is the team you can trust. We offer coverage for your home, auto, business, and more. We work hard to find the best policy for you at the best price. Our personalized service means we take the time to understand your needs and make sure you understand your options. We want you to feel confident and secure with your insurance policy. Let us make insurance simple for you. Get a quote today at winterburinsurance.com or call us at 931-363-8638.
This is Chandler Harmon, and joining me here is Giles County Lady Bobcats head coach, Coach Fred Steger. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing okay, doing all right. Kate, after tough one last night, come in and just trying to regroup and everything.
And, talking about that loss last night, a hard loss for the Lady Bobcats, but a matchup that the Lady Bobcats can learn a lot from as we open up district play. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you saw from the Lady Bobcats last night in that matchup?
Things that I saw. I mean, we started off where good game. We moved the ball well, got it up and down the floor against their pressure, and they're going to bring good pressure. I mean, Lawrence County is a solid team, and they're going to be a solid team to play again and everything. So we just got to be able to learn from what we did last night, and then try to improve on a lot of things that we did good on. But overall, I was pleased with the way our players started the game and everything, and then we just started having situations that we just had to overcome through that adversity time, to where we had some turnovers and then hit some points in there where we didn't score, had some bad possessions, but with those possessions it was good. It was the execution of what we did was good and everything. So just to be able to look at what we did as a team. We feel that we played hard and we gave it a good effort.
And you talked about Lawrence County as a solid team, potentially one of the better teams in the district
this
year.
Yes, they are.
What is it? How much does it help the Lady Bobcats to get a match like this over with early on as you kind of look ahead to the rest of the district?
Well, it helps us learn from what we need to correct and what we need to build on. And with the type of team that Lawrence County is, they make you do a lot of different things. And so that's one thing that we got to continue to improve on, making those adjustments to make sure that we get able to handle those things and try to be successful at them on down the line, considering that everything is district play from here on out with the schedule.
And then Friday's matchup against Marshall County on the road again. Talk to me a little bit about how the Lady Bobcats getting ready for that matchup, as that's another crucial game here early on.
Like I said, every district game is big, and like I said, in our district, everybody's competitive. So this right here would be another test, another challenge for us, where they're going to bring a different type of game to us. So we just got to make ourselves, or put ourselves in position that we're prepared to any of their challenges, and making sure that we're ready to perform and execute on both ends of the floor. Offensively, just being able to take care of the ball and then run our offense, and then defensively, it's just being in the right positions, try to make sure we do all the little things to be successful on the defensive end, and try to come up with some 50-50 balls and everything.
And last question, Coach, with this Marshall County game, another road game for the Lady Bobcats, what are some key things you think will play a role in the Lady Bobcats' success with another road game like this?
I guess the key, where you travel and all you get to learn a lot about the team on their home court, but then you get them back again where they got to come to your place. So this right here, it helps us to prepare for a lot late in the season, and then we can make adjustments accordingly to how we go with the rest of our district games. But what Marshall will bring, they'll bring a physical game. They'll be a good athletic team, and we just got to make sure that we're able and we're ready to handle that. So we got to make sure we have a good 2 days of practice here to be ready to play and perform, and try to be successful here on Friday night.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Yeah.
Coach.
All right, appreciate it.
Gas
Thank you.
Department of Pulaski is here to help you save money. Natural gas is safe, efficient, and cost-effective. It's up to 50 to 60% less expensive than electricity for home heating. Plus, it's clean and efficient, so you can feel good about your choice. Call us today for service or visit our website to learn more. Make the switch to natural gas and start saving today.
And we're back. You just heard from Coach Fred Steger of the Giles County Lady Bobcats, who had that narrow 4-point loss to Lawrence County on the road in their district opener. So turning on to the boys' side, probably the premier scoring effort I can remember in the last 14 years since I've been covering sports in this county. Kason Howard, it sounds like he just absolutely had a career night over there on the road.
Absolutely, Mark. And one of the interesting things that's been brought to my attention after the matchup is the fact that last week we saw him have a career high with 36 points. He comes out there last night and scores a new career high of 45 points. Kason Howard, I think, has really grown over the past year, and we're seeing him figure out where his shots are going to go. He took only 20 shots, made 16 of them.
Wow.
Found a great rhythm early on in the game, and just, as Coach Campbell said, it was one of the better one-man scoring performances. Everyone around him played their role exceptionally well to help them get that victory, with some Randolph having 12 points, but they all got the ball to Howard, and he found somehow every time he got the ball, he seemed to have found a shot that was going to go in no matter what.
80% shooting from the field. I didn't know that until you just told me, and that's just unbelievable. The efficiency, on top of the fact that he had just one of the best scoring nights, I think that probably in school history. We'd have to look that up to see what the exact highest numbers are there. But just really an incredible performance. So how did you feel about the other aspects of the game? It looked like they did give up quite a few points against Lawrence County there. And so how did you feel about the defense and everything else that went into last night's victory?
Yeah, Mark, I think that, defense is still a bit of a question mark for the Bobcats. Something they've been trying to figure out in a lot of these past few matchups. They've played, intentionally played these very tough teams to test their defense. There's still a little bit of areas they can improve. Second and third chance opportunities were a big issue. I think Coach Campbell said they had 17 or 18 points off second chance opportunities in last night's matchup. That's something that they're going to want to clean up as we get further into district play. But I think this is a Lawrence County team that people kind of look down on because, I believe 2 wins this season up until this point. But they're a team that I think started to find their rhythm a little bit, and a team that, you're on a road game in a very hostile environment.
Right.
So I think this was a test for the Bobcats. I think that defensively they're going to get better. But it was, from my perspective as a fan watching from the stands, any game that has 70 points, over 70 points for both teams, probably a great matchup to watch.
Yeah, just the quality of basketball that you're seeing out there. And once again, on the road that Giles was able to do this too. Starting 1-0 on the road is such a positive marker for this team in terms of where we think they can go. And like I said, I kind of felt the same way as I did with the girls, that I think they're going to contend there for the top of that district, just like on the girls' side. I think Tullahoma is going to be pretty good, but it'll be really interesting where this Giles County team goes this year. And so we're going to take another second to hear from Chandler as he had a chance to interview Nick Campbell of the Giles County Bobcats.
When it comes to insurance, Winterberg and Associates Insurance is the team you can trust. We offer coverage for your home, auto, business, and more.
We're more than just
we work hard to find the best policy for you at the best price.
And phone services.
Our personalized service means we take the time to understand your needs and make sure you understand your options. We want you to feel confident and secure with your insurance policy. Let us make insurance simple for you. Get a quote today at winterberginsurance.com or call us at 931-363-8638.
So here I am with Giles County Bobcats head coach Nick Campbell after a great win last night for the Bobcats. Coach Campbell, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, last night was a great win for us. We didn't play our best basketball, but we kept it close enough to give ourselves a shot there in the fourth quarter. We've got to clean some stuff up, but credit to our guys. We didn't really flinch when we got down. We kept playing, kept it close. Made some shots late, had some forced some turnovers. And made some timely buckets last night.
And Coach, talking about that first district game of the season for the Bobcats, what are some things you saw from them that you thought that we've done really good with, and maybe some areas we can grow as this district play continues?
We've got to continue to get better on defensive rebounding. We gave up, I think it was 15 offensive rebounds for 17 or 18 points. I have to look at my stats, but we've got to clean that up. We've got to do a better job of paying attention to our game plan of who's shooters and who's not shooters. But that's the first district game that some of these guys have played in. In that environment, it was a great environment, big crowd. We put a little bit of too much pressure on ourselves to go out there and play perfect, and we've got to quit relying on one guy to go get a rebound and one guy to go get a bucket. We've got to do a better job of playing together as a team. But our complementary basketball, I thought sometimes we pass the ball a little bit too much when we should shoot it. But I thought we played well enough to give ourselves a shot, and we played well down the stretch. We were down 8 with about 5 minutes to go and came back and won by 4. So it's a 12-point swing in about 3.5-4 minutes.
One of the big contributors last night, Case Howard, 45 points, I believe, a career high for Howard.
Yeah.
Continuing to grow into a leadership role for the Bobcats. What have you seen from him this year as he's continued to, elevate his game and grow as one of the leaders of the Bobcats?
Yeah, he's definitely our leader. He's always had the skill set. Now he's controlled his game a little bit more. The game's slowing down a lot to him. He's as skilled as anybody around. If you score 45 points in a game, that's pretty impressive. And what's more impressive is he was 16 of 20 from the field. So it wasn't like he had 45 points on 40 shots. It was on 20. So he was taking some good shots last night. He made some. But the other guys, Franchise played really well. Deshaun played really well late. I thought Damari Allen probably the best game that he played all year. Octavian Howard played well. And really everybody, Chase Reynolds does so many things that don't necessarily show up in the stat book. But we're not where we are without him. Ex-Hannah, really the 7-8 guys that we played do a really good job. Colt Ogles, he drives too late right there, and we hit a case and hits the 3 on the kick out, and then he gets a layup. That's a 5-point swing in 3 possessions. So we're doing a lot of good things. We just got to continue to improve and do those things for 4 quarters.
Coach, that's one thing that in talking to the Lawrence County coach after the game, he talked about, from what he saw from y'all, is that not only do you have a scorer who can do a lot, but you have players around him that not only play good ball, but they complement each other. And I think that's something that a lot of other teams are even starting to see with the Bobcats this year.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of different pieces. We've got some scorers, we got rebounders, we got some guys who can drive it and distribute it. We got to get all those clicking and going at the right time all together. We show signs of it. We just got to be a little more consistent with it. But we can't give up 70 points. We've got to do a better job defensively and on the boards. We can score some, but we've got to be a better team on defense. And the guys know that we can defend better. We just got to make our mind up and do it and pay a little bit more attention to the details, which we're still young. Everybody, forgets we are young. We only have one senior, Deshaun Howard. He's really leading us as well. He's doing a really good job of putting us in places on offense, doing a good job on defense. He had a couple steals last night because he's pressuring the ball. I thought for the most part we played, honestly, last night I didn't think we played very well in the first half, but in the second half we played much better. We played with more sense of urgency that we talked about. Instead of kind of walking around like we were in the first half, our urgency picked up in the second half, so that was good to see.
And Friday, another road game, another road district game that's very important to the Bobcats. Talk to me a little bit about, what are some things y'all seen from Marshall County as y'all get ready for that matchup?
Marshall's really good. They beat Lincoln County, who's probably only lost 3 games, so we'll have our work cut out. It's a big rival on the road, second district game, Friday night. It's going to be a huge crowd. They've got some really good players. I know they lost a lot of guys from last year, but that doesn't matter. Those guys are ready to play. They've waited their turn to kind of play some. So they'll be ready to play. Everybody plays with a little more confidence at home, so they'll be ready to for us to come in there, and they'll be ready to knock us off. So we've got to come in there and play well. We've got to do a better job defensively and rebounding to give ourselves a shot, but we're going to have to play well to beat them.
And last question, Coach. Something you talked about last night that I thought would be interesting for the viewers to hear too. While not a lot of fans may know how the planning for the scheduling goes, Bobcats schedule a very tough early season to get ready for this. Talk to me about the thought process behind having a very tough early schedule to get ready for this district play section.
We had a brutal pre-district schedule. We played a variety of different teams from Muscle Shoals to Lauderdale County to Lincoln to Fayetteville City. We Page and Summit are really good. So we played some tough teams just to prepare us for this stretch. I think if, like last night, for instance, if we hadn't had some of those tough games like the Lauderdale County Christmas tournament, I think we might have kind of folded a little bit per se and maybe lost by 10 or 15. But we've been in those situations where we've had to kind of keep our cool, come back from a little bit of a deficit. Really kind of, you don't want to say grind the game out because it was in that high 70s. But it's just kind of those situations in the game where you do have to maybe grind out a 4 to 5 minute stretch where you're not playing as good as you should be. But we have put them through a tough schedule just for the next few weeks and hopefully months going down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, sir.
For a new job, let M&M Staffing be your guide. With over 20 years of experience, we know how to connect great people with great opportunities. We work with over 80 companies, so we're sure to find the perfect job for you. Our team is dedicated to helping you succeed, and our high customer satisfaction rate proves it. Ready to get started? Visit us at mnmstaffing.net or give us a call today at 931-347-4255.
And we're back here with our Richland segment here on Beyond the Box Score. You just now had a chance to hear from Coach Nick Campbell of the Giles County Bobcats that picked up their first district win of the season on the road against Lawrence County. Speaking of district wins, though, the Lady Raiders and the Raiders are both 2-0 now in District 9A, and so they moved east, but still having similar success that we've seen Richland have over the last decade in district play.
Absolutely, Mark. Those are two teams that have been heading in the right direction for the past few years, looking to, get themselves out there to start district play. Anytime that both your teams can go 1-0, you're probably doing something right. We just talked about the Bobcats. Unfortunately, didn't get to have that. But when you go out there, you play, you get those wins, you much rather want to start 1-0 than 0-1.
Well, one funny thing about it is, Giles is starting out the district season with some road games. Richland's been fortunate enough to be playing these games at not Wayne Hobbs, that's the football, Dwight Clark gymnasium there in Linville, and great crowds the last few nights there. And I think they kind of suspect that there's something special happening in Linville with these Richland basketball teams. But talking about the girls' action first there, Lady Raiders finished 2-0 in the first two district games of the year. First, they beat rival Cornersville at home Friday night in the Battle of Buford Station on the hardwood there. And so that was an interesting game because in the first quarter, Camille Franklin of Cornersville scored 9 points, looked pretty unstoppable. Richland looked a little unsure of themselves early, but as they have for much of the season, they had a second half run that really put that game away. And so, they kind of feel like they may be the opposite of Giles in the sense that they're not always a first half team, but they've had what it takes to close out some of these games.
Yeah, Mark, and sometimes, you'd prefer to be the team that plays better in the second half rather than the first half, because that's where, really, at the end of the day, unless you've absolutely blown them out in the first half, whoever does better in the second half is probably going to win that matchup. So, being able to close the game, not only just close the game, but, open up scoring in the third quarter, be able to get on a run, potentially come back from behind. That's what separates the good teams from the great teams, is facing adversity in the first half, weathering the storm, and then coming out in the second half and playing good basketball and taking control and then getting the win is, that's the most important thing about any game.
Yeah, and of note, Franklin, after she had really been the star in the first quarter, she had 9 points in the first quarter, only scores 11 over the course of the night. So I thought the defense was really good there. The Lady Raiders with Chad Hall there changed things up defensively, and that's what they've been doing a lot this season, is changing up the looks between, zone and man, and kind of getting some teams, a little bit out of sync there that way. And so they end up winning that one after Bailey Blair scored 0 points in the first quarter, ends up being the leading scorer on the night, just as she has been for much of the season. I think one of the most important things, though, was sophomore Elizabeth Gordon, who they said they wanted to get some more scoring from, has been playing just spectacular defense. She had I believe, career high in points in that one with 12 points. And really, some of these young sophomores, kind of like we've seen for Giles, are starting to kind of take the reins and really become bigger and bigger parts of this team.
Absolutely, Mark. And, as we talked about even in the Giles segment, that's going to be important not only for this season, but future seasons. This is experience they're going to need, and becoming a key contributor early is what helps the team to figure out not only answers to problems they might have this season, but they can go ahead and start looking ahead at next season and be like, here's who's going to fit in this spot, here's who's going to contribute when we need them. And those are question marks that hopefully now are being filled out this season as we're getting into district play, which is the most important part of the season, but also answers questions, further on, say next year, they already got some ideas about who might want to start in some spots,
Definitely. And then looking at the Fayetteville City game, of course, we've seen Fayetteville City 3 times now this season. Giles played them twice, split with them on the girls' side there. But Richland, kind of out of the gates, a little bit sluggish. Fayetteville City did what they do best, which is hit a lot of three-pointers. I believe they hit 6 in the first half there, and looked really good from the perimeter. Richland, was finding a way to stay in it. Danny Lynn Galloway off the bench had 3 three-pointers of her own in the first half. Richland ends up going up 26-25 at the half on a shot from Bailey Blair. But then Blair only had 4 points in the first half, and just like she did against Cornersville, really, really took off in the second half. She basically was unstoppable. I think had 13 points in the third quarter alone there. Finishes with a game-high 25, 21 of which came in the second half. There's a reason that she's being looked at as an all-state caliber player. Just really phenomenal stuff from the Division II signee.
Absolutely, Mark. And every team's got to have that one player who steps up when you need him most, and she's become, not only has she become that, she is that for Richland. She has, leading up to this point, she, is contributing when she needs to most. First half could be, where you see most scoring for players. A lot of players on Giles County, we see them score most of their points in the first half, kind of getting a lull in the second half. But she comes out in the second half, gets those key points that you need to come back or keep the lead and extend the lead and, force the other team to make shots, whereas you're getting the shots you need to go into the basket.
Yeah, and of course they end up winning that one 74-53, so they did give up quite a few points to Fayetteville City there, but the key run there was Richland started the second half, the third quarter that is, on a 20-0 run, and then in the fourth quarter made another pretty big run, so it's kind of back and forth in the second half, but Richland had one more run than Fayetteville City did, and they ended up winning that one by 21 points there, and so did give up 9 three-pointers over the course of the night, which I think the coaching staff will probably have a few things to say about that. But they beat Fayetteville City at their own game because Richland hit 10 three-pointers themselves. And so really great win there. And now we're going to have a chance to hear from Coach Chad Hall, who we sat down with after Tuesday night's win over Fayetteville City. Coach, another big win tonight, 2-0 in district play. Just what are your initial thoughts?
Fayetteville is much better than a one-win team. That's my thoughts before we got here and after watching them play. They're a highly athletic team, shoot the ball really, really well. Had some misfortune with some kids and injuries and sickness and things like that. A team you really don't want to have to play the third time in the season. I'll say it that way.
And really looking at Fayetteville City, I've seen them 3 times now this year. I think they probably are more predicated on long-range shooting than any other team I've seen. Just what was y'all's defensive game plan to kind of stifle that?
Well, we hope to stay tight on 21 and number 3, but both of them hurt us bad in the first half. Easy as that is. 21 is a really good shooter. Gets it off so quick. So we really wanted to extend our defense enough, but at the same time, extend too much on number 2 and 3 out there, and they just blow by you. You got to guard them up and take their shot away. Both of those fouls that Bailey Hollis got there in the first period was exactly that, trying to extend a little bit to take away a shot and get into a body and get a foul right there. But at the end of the night, I felt like we could make a run. We made 2 runs in the second half. They answered one, the other they didn't. And fortunately or unfortunately, how you look at that, I feel like our kids fought hard. Even in some situations of adversity, had 9 big points for Danny Lynn in the first half. Elizabeth with another double-digit point night. Kate came on stronger after the first period. Of course, Bailey shot it well in the second half. They stifled her in the first half. So just really proud of our effort overall. And if our kids would just stick together and do the things we're asking, we feel like that's going to happen most nights.
And you talked about those runs, a 20-0 run to start the third quarter. Just what'd you say to the girls at halftime? And, offensively, I think you scored, 48, 49 points?
48 in the second half.
Yeah.
I really didn't say a whole lot other than we got to be on our assignments. I feel like changing defenses, that's on our scouting report, changing defenses would cause them to slow down a little bit, and it did. The 2-2-1 press that we got in there to start the third period, I don't think was very good, but they threw it to us or threw it out of bounds or rushed shots, and we rebounded at a high level in the third quarter right there. And so, you just put all that together. I think that's what single A basketball is about, see what's happening and working tonight versus this team, even though they shot it really well. And, you say, why would you go to a zone when they're shooting it that well? Stop and make them think is my philosophy right there. You stay in the same groove, it's comfort for them. And so we tried to change it up a little bit. But, 20-0 to start, you kind of like that any old night. But I think they probably answered back on a 12-0 themselves right after that or something very close.
And finally, Friday night at Moore County. I know Cornersville obviously is really good, but coming into the season, I think a lot of people thought Moore would be the toughest game in this district. Just how do you feel about what you have coming into the game and what your plan is?
Well, there was no question to me that Moore County was our best competition in the district. That's no shame to Cornersville, no knock on them by any means, but Moore County's tradition, and they returned 3 quality players with a lot of younger kids stepping in roles that they didn't play. Moore County's, even though it's a different gym than it was years ago, it's never an easy place to go play. They've got a really good scorer. They got a secondary player who I think is maybe their better player in all reality. Sharp can shoot it, but the Dye kid's a really good player. They got a big kid as well. She's not a high scorer, but we'll have to do our job. We'll have to rebound really well. Have to have some luck getting the ball to fall and, I guess react to adversity like we have to every single night.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
For your job, let M&M Staffing be your guide. With over 20 years of experience, we know how to connect great people with great opportunities. We work with over 80 companies, so we're sure to find the perfect job for you. We know how to get results. Our team is dedicated to helping you succeed, and our high customer satisfaction rate proves it. Ready to get started? Visit us at mnmstaffing.net or give us a call today at 931-347-4255. Haney Realty and Property Management, your best friend in real estate. For a new job, let M&M Staffing be your guide.
And we're back here. You just heard from Coach Chad Hall of the Richland Lady Raiders, who are now 2-0 in District 9A play. So turning it over to the boys' side, Richland 2-0 on that side as well. Really made pretty easy work of Cornersville on Friday night. Beat them by 22 there. It was a little touch and go there in the first half, but a huge third quarter run there turned that game around. Right now for Richland, I think the interesting note is, you're without Cooper Jackson now, who has what we now know is a 3 to 6 week injury with that broken wrist in his right hand there. He was probably your go-to on-ball defender. He was usually guarding the best player for the opposing team. By the way, whether it was at guard or post, because Jackson kind of plays that small forward type role there for them. And that's something that is pretty tough to replace, especially for a team that's played 3 All-State players so far this season. So I think that's going to be one of the interesting storylines for them is defensively. I think by committee now they're going to need to replace that defensive stalwart that was Cooper Jackson.
Yeah, Mark, that's one of those things you don't want to ever lose on your team. While it can be hard to replace scoring, losing a defensive player who is your main contributor on defense or one of your main contributors, that's something you don't want to see happen, especially right towards the start of district play, as you have a lot of tough opponents ahead.
Yeah.
Playing defense by committee, that might be the answer. They're going to take a look at that, and try to figure out who's going to fit. Obviously, like you said, there's not going to be an easy way to replace him, but maybe they find someone who can give somewhat of the same defensive performance as they kind of try to, go through the rest of this district play. Because, there's a chance you don't see him back till towards the end of the season. You got to kind of find the answer to what's going to help you through the rest of the district plays. You play some very tough opponents ahead.
Yeah, if it's 6 weeks, that would put him right around the district tournament or the region tournament there. And so there's a good chance, from what I'm hearing, that he does play some more basketball this season. Obviously, he's probably one of their top 2 starting pitchers on the baseball team as well. So Cooper's a great kid. By the way, second leading scorer too. So it's not as if he can't put the ball in the hoop as well. He's playing some of his best basketball as a senior. So hate that for him. And you're going to hear Jason talk about the fact that, it is kind of, a gut punch to, have that happen to a senior. You hate that for him. But at the same time, there's a chance that he's going to get to come back. The story for Richland, though, on the boys' side was last week they played 2.5 games without Jason Lovelace because he got 2 quick technical fouls after having a disagreement with the refs on a call. From what I hear, it was kind of a weird situation. People were kind of confused that he got 2 technicals that quickly. But, of course, the TSSAA rule is that if you get 2 technical fouls, you have to sit out the next 2 games, unlike you see, at higher levels. And so it was going to be interesting to see how Richland responded. Of course, they responded very well. They won all 3 games last week. Of course, Marshall, in which they actually won in overtime, I believe, if I remember that correctly, and then beating a very tough Wayne County team on the road, and then beating Cornersville as well. So last night versus Fayetteville City on Tuesday night this week. We're recording on Wednesday. As I say, because I guess you're probably watching this on Thursday, but on Tuesday night versus Fayetteville City, he gets to come back to the court in the game, and I had a chance to talk to him afterwards, and it's really interesting to get his perspective there of, how it kind of changes his perspective having to see his team, play without him during the games. Even though he's doing all of the game day work, he still gets to do all the practice with them. But he gets back with the team now, and they really show out versus Fayetteville City. They start the first quarter on an 18-0 run, which is ended by a big dunk by Cade McCormick. And then to start the third quarter, they also go on an 18-0 run. So in the first 4 minutes of the first and first 4 minutes of the third quarter, they outscore their opponent 36-0. It's pretty hard to lose a game when you have that kind of just phenomenal energy coming out of the locker room both times.
Yeah, Mark, that's one of those things that you'd have to be playing all-time bad offense the rest of the game. But, I mean, if you're going on huge runs like that in both the key parts, how you start the game in both the first half and the second half is probably, going to tell you a lot about how the rest of the game is going to go. So when you get on big runs to start your first half and your second half, you're probably doing a lot of things right on offense. And it seems like, the Raiders have found a way to get, the people they need to in scoring positions and build a good, strong lead that helps them, elevate through the rest of the game to get a win.
Well, and the thing is, their depth is really good. And, of course, that shows with the fact that they lose Cooper Jackson and haven't yet skipped a beat. Of course, there's a lot of basketball to be played, but, it's just the fact they have so many scoring options, I think. 4 different guys finished in double figures versus Fayetteville City there, led by 19 points by Cade McCormick. He had 2 dunks over the course of the night, just looked unstoppable in the post as he has for much of the season. I think you had 16 for Jamison Andrews, and then 11 for Will Shirey, who opened the night with back-to-back three-pointers, which was really big to get that early lead. And then, of course, also Lane Dooley had 10 points. I believe all of those came in the third quarter, so really well-rounded scoring effort. But the most interesting thing about the night wasn't the phenomenal defense, the elite rebounding, and the fact that they just went on runs that you're probably not going to see very often in high school basketball. But it's the fact that they got to play their 3 8th graders and their lone freshmen for more than 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. And so basically they got to put in their entire JV team for most of the fourth quarter. That's got to be really a great experience for those guys.
Absolutely, Mark. In any game that you can give, those players that in a few years are going to be very crucial to the team, the experience against an opponent that obviously the game's out of reach at that point, but that's experience that they'll take with them as they continue to grow as players, and you just can't beat that kind of experience where you're getting on the court against, you're not playing other JV teams, you're playing an actual basketball team that is going to give you a lot of knowledge on where you can grow. So it's great that they got that, and it also speaks highly of the team that the Raiders have put around that they can have that chance to give them those opportunities by getting up by such a big lead.
Yeah, of course, Raiders end up winning that one 68-37. They led by as many as 38 points at one point. And real quick, before we get the interview from Jason Lovelace, I think a lot of people are going to look at this and say, well, you beat a 1-10 girls team, you beat a 1-11 boys team in Fayetteville City. Fayetteville City girls, I think, are a lot better than the record. You know, you heard that from Chad Hall a moment ago in that interview, and so I think that's still a pretty quality win. But you were supposed to go out, you were supposed to take care of business, and you did on both sides. And once again, you know, in district play, you don't get to choose who you play. You know, those are set by the TSAA. You know, sometimes you're going to play good teams, sometimes you're going to be playing teams that are going through a rough stretch. But at the end of the day, all you can do is come out and take care of business, and they decisively took care of business against a couple teams in which they obviously were a mismatch against Richland, as the Raiders and Lady Raiders won quite handedly. But we're going to take a quick timeout here and hear from Coach Jason Lovelace, who had a chance to talk to us after Tuesday night's win over Fayetteville City.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
So, Coach, big win tonight, 2-0 in district play. Just what are your initial thoughts?
We had a lot of energy. I was kind of a little concerned coming off of last week, what kind of energy we would have, and I thought we started the game phenomenal with our energy. The start of the game and the start of the third quarter was just phenomenal with our energy, and I really think that set the tone. Obviously, our defense was really, really locked in at the beginning of the game, which fueled our offense and our transition, and credit to the guys. They just bought in and believed into our game plan, and had a good night.
And really, just to ask a question about last week, just what was the experience like, you know, in terms of still getting to do all the things with the guys, but then not getting to be there for the actual game with them?
Yeah, so that's a complex answer. The experience was bittersweet, I would say. First of all, the support from the community has been amazing, and that's appreciated. But it ain't about me. It's about those dudes in that locker room, and also my coaches, Coach Gordon, Coach Miller, Coach Ho, Coach Hall, that stepped in for me. I never had any doubt whatsoever that we could, have a successful week. For me personally, I got to see things from a different perspective, watching things from a different perspective and seeing my guys do things from a different perspective. But I was really proud of how it galvanized and glued us together a little bit, so I'm hoping that can carry over.
And so initially, without Cooper Jackson, still able to, find a way to work along with this team. But defensively, how has that changed things up for you, considering that was one of the, obviously he does a lot of things well, but that was one of the key things he was doing for your team.
Right. So emotionally, that's a tough one because Coop, the last 5 years, has grown so much as a young man and so much as a player. And going from, a timid, shy kid to our best defender, guarding all types of kids on the offensive end, and our second leading scorer. So I really, really hate the fact that Coop is hurt, but we can't dwell on that. And Coop don't want us to. He's going to be back here hopefully soon, and we'll get him back. But for us, obviously, we've got to look at a few different people and a few different things to do defensively. But really, we haven't changed a whole lot. As far as what we're doing and how we're doing it, just guys are stepping up. We preach to our guys all the time that our games are won in practice, so they keep showing up in practice and getting better and working on the things that we need to work on, like, for instance, who's guarding this guy, like Cooper would, and how are we guarding this guy, and those kind of things. So it's really a collective effort from everybody. It's not just one particular player that's taking over Coop's role. It's multiple guys who have stepped into that role, and I'm very proud of that.
And then finally, it has to feel good to get your 8th graders in for more than 4 minutes in a varsity game. Just getting to see some of your young guys get, minutes versus, by the way, some of their starters. Just how'd you feel about that and the opportunity to get that done tonight?
It's fun. It's really, really good. Here at Richland, after their middle school season's over, we bring them up and let them play. And I don't know this, this is just my opinion. In the last month, since the season's been over, I would say those 3 8th graders that have joined us have improved more in the last month than they did in the middle school season, because they're going against kids like Jamison Andrews, Cade McCormick, Lane Dooley, and such in practice. And they're picking up our offensive system, which is taking some time.
and it's really about getting the speed of the game. So, they're a little bit outmatched out there against the larger guys, the faster guys, but I was really proud to see them hold their own. And for the reward is a lot of times in practice, they're running our scout offense, they're running our scout defense, and for them to be able to go out there and get rewarded with minutes on the varsity game, it's really cool to see that. And for them to hold their own. I mean, they take pride when they go out there because we preach about accountability, and they know those older guys have built a lead, and they don't want to see that lead shrunk. So they go out there and try to do their thing, and I'm really proud for those younger guys, our 8th graders, and not just our 8th graders. Jensen Fugelberg, who's a freshman, our only freshman, and for those guys to get out there at the last quarter was big. Okay, those are big minutes for them for sure.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir. When it comes to insurance, Winterberg and Associates Insurance is the team you can trust. We offer coverage for your home, auto, business, and more. We work hard to find the best policy for you at the best price. Our personalized service means we take the time to understand your needs and make sure you understand your options. We want you to feel confident and secure with your insurance policy. Let us make insurance simple for you. Get a quote today at winterburinsurance.com or call us at 931-363-8638.
And we're back here on Beyond the Box Score. You just heard from Coach Jason Lovelace of the Richland Raiders, who are 2-0 in district play. And so before we close things out today, wanted to kind of give a preview of what's still to come. This week we have a couple more exciting district matchups. On the Giles County side, they're playing at Marshall County. That's a really fun one. You know, people always ask me what's Giles' biggest rival. And I think a few people are going to say Lawrence County, but I think the average person, has a special place in their heart for this rivalry versus Marshall. I think when it comes to, my wife played sports for Giles County, and they're like, oh no, I was about to say we're all in for the Marshall County rivalry there, and so it's gonna be fun. And I think it's actually a really good matchup on both sides. I think there's every reason that Giles can sweep the night, but at the same time, I think those are going to be pretty close games, and I think we're going to learn even more about this Giles County team, which of course is starting their first 2 district games on the road.
Absolutely, Mark, and it's one of those things for the Lady Bobcats. It gives them a get-right game that allows them to split their district record, figure out some things about where they stand as a team, and hopefully answer some questions on where have they figured some stuff out since that Tuesday matchup in which they unfortunately lost by 4 points in a game that they held the lead for most of the matchup. This gives them a chance to show that they can go in on the road, they can get the win they need, and they can come out with a victory.
So big wins there for confidence, and for the district seedings as well. Then on the Richland side, on Friday night, they're going to be playing at Moore County. This is a matchup between probably top 8 teams in Class A on the girls' side. And so this is going to be an early preview of 2 teams that both have every expectation to go back to the state tournament, because these were both state tournament teams last year. And so that's going to be a great one. On the boys' side, too, I think the Richland boys are probably going to be pretty heavy favorites there, but still should be a lot of fun, and their first district test on the road. And they actually have a bonus game this week, as they will be at home on Saturday night as well versus Cascade on the girls' side. One of Richland's only 2 losses, so a chance to avenge that and split the season series there. Both those games are scheduled to be on the radio, by the way, and so that should be a lot of fun there, as I think Jennifer and myself will have Friday night's game. And I don't know about Saturday just yet. We're waiting to hear from Jennifer, but there's a chance that you and Scott Stewart are going to get a chance to get back on the radio there, and it would be your first game that you've ever called for Richland if you get that assignment, right?
Absolutely, Mark, and that'll be a fun thing to do. As much as I love my Bobcats, it'll be good to see, get the experience of seeing another team, our other great local basketball team, as they're, in a very crucial part of the season, and kind of getting that experience of seeing what the other side of the county's like.
Yeah, it's been great on both sides, and so we really encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to get out and see some quality basketball for Giles or Richland this year, please do. It's a lot of fun, and of course you can always catch our coverage on our website in the print edition of the Pulaski Citizen, and of course also those broadcasts for WKSR Radio as well, who we partner with there. And so Giles plays at Marshall Friday night, Richland plays at Moore, and then Saturday, Richland plays at home versus Cascade. But we're going to close out the program as Chandler had a chance to interview Don Thomas, talking about some of the things, just catching up over the last few months about what's happening in the Giles County school system there. So thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Box Score. Hope you enjoy some great basketball late this week, and of course that national championship for college football as well. But we'll close it out with Chandler's interview with Don Thomas.
This is Chandler Harmon, and joining me here for our Giles County segment today is Principal Don Thomas. Principal Thomas, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Having a good day. How are you?
I'm doing well. Obviously, it's been a little while since we talked to you. Had the Christmas break and stuff come up between now and the last time we talked. What are some things over the past few months since the last time we talked that have happened in the high school?
Well, we finished up the first semester, finished up well, got started back the second semester. Students in new courses. We changed classes at the midpoint of the year, so students just getting newly adjusted to their new classes coming back. And in the middle of basketball season, got a lot of spring sports starting up, practicing. So just a lot of things going on.
And so, I believe second week back now from into the semester, what are some things that have happened these first 2 weeks now that y'all are kind of, getting reacclimated with all these school kids coming back from the break?
That's it. Just trying to make sure we're on top of things. We're looking at, obviously you come back in January, weather's changing up and down, and you've been out for a while. So now, we're just trying to stay on top of our attendance and things like that. Trying to stay on top of our any illnesses going around, whether it be the flu or just bronchitis, anything, that we're having a majority of. So right now we're good. We're good.
And kind of looking ahead, in the big stretch of the school year before we get to summer break, what are some things, up ahead for students here at Giles County High Schools? We kind of start to get towards, working towards the summer break and stuff.
Well, we have pacing. We have pacing that we have to plan out right there because, we have our ACT coming up in the spring for our juniors, which is their biggest test for the up to that point. And so it's just how we pace things out and how we crunch it in, because in this time of year you never know when you might be out for snow, you might be out for floods, you might be out for something. So we just have to take advantage of every teaching opportunity that we have, and as soon as we came back after day one, it's full go. So have to get all of our teaching in on every class.
Absolutely. And then before I head out, I always like to give you an opportunity to add something I might not have added. Is there anything else you want to add?
Like I said, just in the middle of basketball season right now, everybody's trying to do a good job with that, and won a big ball game last night. Our guys did over at Lawrenceburg, so that's always a big thing. They get excited to beat us, and we're always excited when we beat them, which I think that's a little more. So, but it's and that's a biased opinion. So but it's good both ways. It's a good rivalry, and it's always good competition.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you.